Welcome back to part 3 of the video. In this video I'm going to show how to put the vertical dividers in between the panes, and we will only fit the dividers into the first 5, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, as once we've completed those we can then duplicate them, flip them and fit them to the other side. The first thing we need to do, and this is very important, is to surround the inner panes and object group them. That means that can be removed once we've done our drawings. As each of these openings are 23 millimeters, and we're going to allow 1 millimeter each for the dividers to make it easier for cutting by hand, you can make them 0.5 mil for when cutting on a cutting machine. So the first thing to do is to draw 3 boxes 7 millimeters wide. So if we do one box first, that's 7 millimeters. Height isn't really important at the moment. Once we've done that, then surround the box and duplicate. And duplicate again. Next, we surround the 3 boxes, then go to Object, Align and Distribute, go to Grid, and tell it that there is 1 row by 3 columns. Click on the Set Spacing and change the settings to millimeter, set to 1 millimeter gap, and press Arrange. We can now group those, so Object and Group, and duplicate. Now we're going to need 15 of these, so therefore we can duplicate after we've surrounded them. And pick on one group, duplicate. We now have enough for all of the 5. If we click on the first group and pop it into place, I prefer to turn the snapping tool off, as it tends to jump around too much and there's too many things for it to snap to. So that's the first one in, put the second in. It isn't critical because the overlap or overcut between the larger uprights will be covered. We just stretch the box to fit. Take the next one and stretch to fit until you've done all 5. Once all 5 are done, then it's time to draw around each of the individual panes. I've now turned the snapping tool on bounding boxes, and we'll now select and draw a line. And we'll then go to the corner of each and draw a line. You've got to do that for each of these all the way up to the top. Once you've completed all 15 of the vertical panes, it's now time to remove some of the parts we don't need. But before we do that, we need to draw a couple of lines, guidelines. So select, draw a line. Just click on this point here and draw a straight line down. Then click on the top point again and drag a line horizontally there. That will be a guideline to place the window panes. Press select. Now what we will do is we will remove all of these boxes. So just highlight and delete. The next thing, we must click on the archway that we surrounded originally. That can come out, and that can also be deleted. We now surround all of these panes, not the outer arch, just the panes. Make sure you've got them all, then Object, Group, then Duplicate. Drag that out, and then use the flip button here on the second ribbon. And now make sure your snapping tool is off, because we're going to take that group and place it right into that corner where we had the two guidelines. We can now click on the guidelines and remove those as well. Now everything is therefore in place. We don't need to curve all of these upper edges as we did in the previous, because again they will be covered by the outer layer. The most important is that these are equal spaces between these three panes in each opening. All that's left to do is to now save this as layer 3. You can then send it to a printer or to a cutting machine. And I would suggest that you cut these out on sticky labels so that they can be placed onto the acetate quite easily. Just as a recap, these are the 4 layers that we've actually made. Layer 0, which is the top layer, layer 1, which is the next layer down, 2 and 3 form the rest of it. Now what we need to do is make sure that layer 1, 2 and 3 are cut out on sticky labels. That will make it a lot easier to put the frames together. Layer 0 should be in the 200 gram card, or you can even go up to 500 gram card. What I've shown here is that the first thing I did was to cut out a sticky label. As you can see, this is the black side of the sticky label, and I've placed that on an acetate background. Then you need to cut out layer 2, this one, on a sticky label and stick it on top. Then layer 1 and place that on top. So what I've done to save time is I've done that, and there we have ready to go before we add layer 0. Now any rough edges or things that are not quite right, we can then place, and this one is the card. I can then place that card over the top. I won't fasten it in place here, but you can then adjust it to suit, and you can see that you start to see the shadows around the frames, which once you fasten that down, those frames will be easy to see. It's just a matter of fiddling with it to get it exactly right before you actually glue it together. And there we have the frame ready to go onto Stockton Station. The one thing that I'm going to do to this is I'm going to weather part of this before I actually put it on the station and before I glue that top layer on. And it will then finish the end of the station. Thanks for watching, and I hope these videos have been a help and to show you that it is possible to do this either by hand or with a cutting machine. Thank you. I look forward to seeing you in the next videos.